1045 The Team, you're home for New York Yankees baseball. Now we are going to go and talk to a guy who handles the Angels beat. He's a writer for the Orange County Register. Jeff Fletcher joins us. Jeff, it was a pretty surreal moment for me last night as a Yankees guy when I hear the MVP chants in California for Aaron Judge. Are there a lot of Yankee fans in Anaheim?
Well, there's a lot of Yankee fans everywhere, as I'm sure you know. That, everywhere the Yankees go, there's a sizable contingent of Yankees fans there. So it's not surprising. And, as you get later in the game and more of the home fans leave, then the Yankee fans have become even more of a higher percentage.
So is there, we're hearing a lot of other fan bases are kind of buying into the whole Aaron Judge thing, making it more and more fun. Is that the vibe out there too, or is it, we've got our MVP, you Yankee fans shut up? Well,
I don't honestly know. I haven't done any surveys of the fans or anything, but I know there's a lot of Yankee fans everywhere. I know Aaron Judge is getting a lot of publicity everywhere. I'm sure that they're all aware of it, and I still think if you ask any Angels fan who is a true Angels fan, they would still take Mike Trout.
What's the status of that Angel fan favorite player, Mike Trout? Will we see him again in 2017?
He's supposed to be, the initial timeline after the surgery was 6 to 8 weeks. There's some hope that he could make it back in 5 because Andrelton Simmons had the same surgery last year. If he does make it back in 5, that would be just before the All-Star game. So 6 would be just after the All-Star game. 8 would be kind of the end of July. So somewhere in that neighborhood.
Jeff Fletcher with us right now on 1045 The Team. He covers the Angels for the Orange County Register. Jeff, Mike Trout has got to be one of, if not the most underappreciated superstars in baseball. Why is that?
Well, I think it's playing on the West Coast. As all of us out in California seem to feel that the people on the East Coast don't really pay attention to anything that happens east of New York, or west of New York, I should say. And I think the Angels have not been very good for some of his time. That's not all the time. They had the best record in baseball one year, and they were eliminated in the last week of the season in 2 other years. So it's not like they've been a non-factor, but they haven't really gone deep in the playoffs or into the World Series or anything like that. I think also he's been so consistent. There hasn't been a breakthrough. Let's all talk about what's happening to Mike Trout because he just does the same thing every year. So it's hard to find a new way to talk about him because it's he's great, but he was great last year. He was great the year before. So there's not really a quote-unquote story or a phenomenon like Aaron Judge who comes out of nowhere and has this great story. Mike Trout has never come out of nowhere. He's just great every year.
We just finished up the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup. We're always talking about legacies. Does Trout need that deep postseason run to add to that historic legacy that he's already building?
I'm not sure about that. People like to say that, but I look at Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. never won a World Series, never really had much of a playoff footprint ever, and he got elected to the Hall of Fame with the highest percentage ever. So I think it's nice. It certainly would help some more people, maybe casual, non-baseball fans, get to know who he is. But I don't think anybody who's a baseball fan is going to think any less of Mike Trout if he keeps doing what he's doing. If the 24 guys around him ever get to a World Series or not.
Jeff Fletcher, he's the man when it comes to the Angels Orange County Register. He is the authority we go to here at 1045 The Team. Speaking of legacy, Pujols gets 600. What's his overall legacy?
Well, he's obviously one of the greatest hitters in the history of baseball. I mean, if you look at the numbers that he's put up, they're just ridiculous. And I think that we kind of forgotten about that because the last few years have not been so great. They've been good, but not. He's only made one All-Star game with the Angels. So I think we kind of take him for granted. Plus, he's playing in the shadow of Mike Trout. But still, the guy's got 600 homers. There's only 8 other people have 600 homers. He's going to get 3,000 hits. He's going to get 2,000 RBIs. I think that's just would be him and Willie Mays then, or him and Hank Aaron that have that collection. That's pretty good group. He's got a chance at 700 homers. He won a couple MVPs. He's all these years in St. Louis. If you look at his average year, was 330, 40 homers, 120 RBIs, 10 or 11 years in a row.
That's amazing.
It's ridiculous. I know, and I think that we kind of forgotten about that and take it for granted because he's not, the new thing on the block anymore. But his career is still pretty amazing.
Jeff, did it hurt him leaving St. Louis, you think? I wonder if he's one of those guys, if he wears the same laundry his whole career, maybe he gets a little higher up on the fans' opinions.
Well, I think that could be true. Certainly the Angels fans have not really embraced him because they basically look at the number they look at is $240 million, which is his contract. And they don't see a guy producing at that level, which is hard to expect anybody to produce at that level, let alone a guy who's 37 years old. So I think Angels fans sort of are mixed about him. If he were still in St. Louis and he was producing at exactly the same level, Cardinals fans would still be crazy about him because they still got the great years out of him. So I think that's true to an extent.
Angels-Yankees tonight. Our coverage starts at 9:25. First pitch set for 10:07 Eastern Time right here on 104.5. The starting pitcher for the Angels tonight is a guy by the name of J.C. Ramirez. What can Yankee fans expect out of this guy tonight?
He is a super interesting guy because he had been a reliever on about 5 different organizations, just kind of kicking around. He was just a guy, one of these guys you claim on waivers and then you DFA, 3 weeks later, you don't think anything of him. The Angels picked him up from the Reds last year. They got him on waivers, and they stopped him throwing his 4-seam fastball and started him throwing his 2-seam fastball instead because he could control it better. And all of a sudden, he became a pretty good reliever. He had like a 2.90 ERA over the last 3 months. And then this year, they decided, we got this guy. He's really big. He's 6'4", 230 or something like that. Throws 97 miles an hour. Let's make him a starter. So they took him into spring training and they made him a starter. And still, he didn't break camp in the rotation, but then Garrett Richards got hurt, and he took his spot. And he really had a run of about 7 or 8 starts where he was their best starting pitcher. Not just a good starting pitcher, their best starting pitcher. He had about a 2.70 ERA over about 8 starts in a row. His last 2 have been a little rougher, so right now he's kind of on that borderline between is he going to go get it back, or is this going to be where sort of the Cinderella story comes to an end? So that's what we're kind of waiting to see right now. But up until this point, he's been really very good, much better than anybody could possibly have imagined.
Great storyline to pay attention to. We appreciate you, Jeff Fletcher. You are the man when it comes to the Angels.
All right, thanks a lot.